Shout out to the University of Northern Colorado, and to all the graduates, the native graduates, all the graduates, but especially the native graduates at the University of Colorado. It's an uncertain time, strange times, but I'm happy to be able to share some of my music and some of my stories to help celebrate them and their accomplishments. And also shout out to the University of Northern Colorado for, always coming through. They booked me twice to perform there now. And then they asked me to do this Instagram live concert. So I'm going to get started here right away with some music. I'm going to be playing some instruments. I'm going to do it kind of like I do it live when I'm on the road. I perform a lot, and I share stories of where every song comes from, usually, or just a little something. But what's cool about tonight is I will also be able to play some instruments for you all, which is something I don't always get to do on the road, just because of opportunities and technical difficulties. I don't always get to bring the instruments that I use to create my music, but now I'm going to get to perform that for you all. So this first song I'm gonna do on native flute, and this is an instrument I've been playing for a little bit now. It's one of my favorite instruments. This song is called Home, and this song is about my home. It's about the complex definition that I have of home. Home for me exists in many different people in many different places. Even on my people's homeland. Even back home on my home reservation, home is still a complex definition. And I don't think I've met anyone in this world who doesn't have a unique, complex definition of home and what home means to them. And I think that's especially true of displaced people and people who've been displaced through colonization, and genocide. And so I just wanted to capture the way all that made me feel in a song. And I found sometimes as a songwriter, as a musician, English gets in the way of things. I'm not fluent in my language. I'm Lakota, I'm learning. I'm going to speak about that a little more later. My great-grandmother took our language to the grave with her, and I'm trying to learn before I die. But I find the older I get and the more Lakota I learn, English just doesn't cut it for me and doesn't really express what I feel inside sometimes. It just doesn't do it, and it's my colonizer's language. My language was taken from me through genocide. And so sometimes I just need to get the English out of the way and let the music do the talking. And so I'm going to share some of those songs with you tonight here too. So this is called Home. And this is for everyone who is at home. We're all at home right now. Those who can't go home, those who can't be at the home they want to be, those who have maybe a not safe situation at home, home is complex for a lot of people. So this song is for all of us. That was my first song. That was called Home. And for those of you that tuned in a little late, that song is about home. And I was talking about how I'm going to be playing some songs on the flute, native flute for you all, that are really personal for me because I found that sometimes English, my colonizer's language, the language I was forced to speak because I'm learning my language, Lakota, which was taken from me through genocide. English gets in the way and doesn't always accurately express what I'm feeling, especially emotionally. So as a musician, I found playing with the flute or an instrument, I can, get my colonizer's language out of the way. This next song I'm going to do is another really personal song. But again, before I hop into the story of that song, what I'm doing is I'm going to share, stories of where these songs come from. And I just want to say shout out to the University of Northern Colorado. This is a celebration of their native graduates. Accomplishment. Shout out to them for accomplishing, getting that degree in whatever whoever's graduating, whatever they studied. It's quite a task. I did it myself. You're going to hear about some of that as I share some more of my songs and journey with you all. But again, this next song is a new song. I wrote it last month. And I don't know if any of you following me online seen what I went through in February at the University of Chicago Medical Center. I had a medical emergency. So what happened was on February 21st, I had a stress-induced seizure, and I was taken by ambulance to the University of Chicago Medical Center, where I experienced one of the most traumatic weeks of my life, and experienced definitely one of the most intense cases of institutional violence. I was high on PCP, and that's what had induced my seizure, despite family and loved ones being there and telling them otherwise. They wouldn't listen until my blood test came back clean. They saw my Sundance ceremony scars and assumed that those were self-mutilation, again, despite my family telling them otherwise. And I came to in the hospital with a tube down my throat. I was intubated with a tube down my throat. And I started panicking because I have a lot of PTSD about suffocating. I actually had an accident where I almost drowned in 2019. So I have a lot of fear of suffocating. And so I came to and I felt like I was suffocating. And it was like a vague dream, but I just remember trying to pull the tube out of my throat and panicking. And the hospital marked me with combative disorder. They put a lot of sedatives into me, including a spinal tap, which was done to conclude if I had meningitis and if that's what caused my seizure, which wasn't the case or wasn't the cause. So I had all these sedatives in me, and I had several men holding me down in a hospital bed as I was freaking out, and then they strapped me into the bed with locked restraints. And I was in the I had the seizure on Friday. Friday night. I came to on Sunday. And I was still super looped up from the drugs, the sedatives. They moved me from ICU to the regular floor with the regular other patients. And they brought a psychiatrist in who kicked my family out and started questioning me about my ceremony scars, trying to trip me up and question me about seeing a psychologist because, I'm very vocal about the fact that I've struggled with things like depression and anxiety for most of my life. So I've seen a psychologist for that, and they were trying to trip me up and send me to the psych ward about that, and trying to just make it seem like I was a crazy person on drugs, and that's why. When they shoot that much sedatives and cause that sort of muscle trauma to young people, it can cause a spike in creatine kinase enzyme in our blood, a CK enzyme. And yeah, because when I came to, I had like bruises all over my body from being strapped in the bed and men holding me down. So like I felt like I got ran over by a truck. And my CK enzyme levels were through the roof in my blood, and it was damaging my liver and kidneys. Normal levels are between like 300 and 500, and when I came to on Sunday, mine were over 40,000. And I had to stay in the hospital for a week. basically undoing the damage that they had done to my body. I had to get flushed with an IV to bring those enzyme levels down because it was damaging my body. What they had done to me, it was damaging my body. So, I went in there for a seizure, and they couldn't conclude what had really caused the seizure, low sodium, but I had been vomiting the day before, and they couldn't figure out what caused the vomiting. So I went in there, and they kind of just made the situation worse. I ended up having to stay there for a week. I couldn't leave the floor. I could barely walk. I could barely move. My body, again, felt like I'd gotten ran over by a truck. And, I got out of there after a week. It just really shook me up. And I felt like, my spirit had left me. And something that Lakota people believe is that your spirit can leave you in times of trauma. It can leave you even in pieces, even if you're triggered from trauma, pieces of it can leave you. And so I got out, and I felt like I was just recovering in every way. Also because of the spinal tap, my memory was really bad. My short-term memory was bad. I couldn't even remember the password to my laptop for a week. So I couldn't remember things. It was just, my body was super beat up. I felt like my spirit was gone. And I came home, and I felt like I needed to write a song to call my spirit back. We're taught to call your spirit back 4 times every day, or everywhere you go. You call your spirit back. And even back in the day, the old ones, before colonization, when they'd be calling their kids, they would call the kid back 4 times, even if the kid ran in the house, to call their spirit back. Just the act of calling your spirit back. And so I felt like I needed to write a song to call my spirit back. I felt like it left me. And so this is the song that I wrote. And when I came home, this song was already in my head. And this never happened before, where a song just was already there. Usually I have to work on songs and write them and form them and add pieces and change pieces. Some songs have taken years to write, but this song was literally just in my head as it is, as you're going to hear it. This is a song I wrote to call my spirit back. This is the Calling Your Spirit Back song. And I wrote this song to call my spirit back after that experience I had at the hospital. Thank you. So, yeah, that was the song I wrote to call my spirit back after I went through all of that. So I hope you enjoy. And just a quick note about these flute songs. I haven't really released a flute project or put myself out there as a flutist yet, but right now I'm planning on releasing my first ever solo native flute album. And it'll be original songs that I wrote, including the 2 you just heard, but they are recorded outside outdoors and places and spaces that are important and special to me, including like outside of the house, the home that I call home back on the Rosewood Reservation. I recorded the song Home outside of my home and place things like that. And so I'm going to be releasing that soon on all streaming platforms, so be on the lookout for that. But you know, if you want to get a sneak peek, you can support me on my Patreon. I'm going to put the link in the bio. Just look me up on Patreon. You can support me monthly there from $1 up to, you know, whatever you want to give, and you get access to exclusive content like those songs and jamming videos, and I always drop stuff there first before I release it to the world. Again, you know, thanks to University of Northern Colorado for doing this. We're going to keep it rolling with some music. Right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring out some other instruments for you all. I'm going to bring out my bass here. You know, I've been playing bass. There's another instrument I play. I'm going to be doing some of this for you all. Reinterpretation, almost like a remix. So a lot of y'all probably know my song 7, and have heard of my song 7 before. But I've had this really cool idea for a while to take my song 7 and do an acoustic cover on the bass, but to mash it up with the song Seven Nation Army by the White Stripes. I don't know if any of you have heard that song. You know, I'm a White Stripes fan. A lot of their early stuff I really liked. I listened to in college a lot. And so, you know, if any of you remember the song by the White Stripes, Seven Nation Army, has a bass line like... So I wanted to take that bass and mash it up with my song 7. And a goal of mine was to be able to play it live and rap it and play the bass. And so this is the first time I'm going to be able to do that for you all. I've been practicing especially for this performance. But another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a beat underneath this. So this is an iPad here. This is a little beat making app I use. I actually used this app to do an Apple Music talk in January of 2019. I did an Apple in the Apple store in downtown Chicago. I did a music lab where I did a full-on version of what you're about to see. So first off, I'll make the drums. Again, I produce all my own music, so it all starts from the ground up. I'm going to show you all a little bit of that process. Starts with the drums. So I got those drums going. Slow there. I'm going to then lay the bass line over it. That we all know. This is 7 times 7 Nation Army. Seven nations of warriors will come rushing in. This is spiritual awakening. Defeat us lies. Cultures they said were petrified. They tell a history that our peoples don't recognize. The U.S. government should be charged with genocide. Spilling lives in a time of war, crime, and suicide. To survive, staying strong. All those times we should have died. I confess, I'm depressed. Sometimes I can't take the stress. Living is a test. Stressed up in the Wild West. My fam suffers, the land suffers. I hate the silence. I hate statistics. I hate the prisons. I hate the violence. I hate these politicians making the wrong decisions. I hate these men that inflict this violence upon our women. They hate to see us rise. We're on their TV's land. Remind these settlers that they're up on treaty land. I did this with my music, a CD in my hand, a microphone in the other. This is the sound of a nation rising, a generation with a vision. We're tired of our people dying. 7 generation, we have risen. This is the sound of a nation rising, a generation with a vision. We hear our Mother Earth crying. 7 generation, we have risen. I go to dance over drums. My music speaks to the young. I give my heart for my people. HBP exhibit. So genius that has a plan. My allegiance is with the land. My people agree to careful, therefore I'ma make a stand. My freedom is non-existent. Convenient to Uncle Sam. The cancers live in our elders. I'm trying to see the truth. My brothers and sisters suffer while people silence our voices. They hold our mouth shut, then tell us that we are voiceless, but they just don't listen. Privilege is their tradition. Not people in their prisons. Our sisters end up missing. I petition my position to live in conditions that kill my people. Not feel my vision. Bow down to a nation rise. This is the sound of a nation rising, a generation with a vision. We hear our Mother Earth crying, 7th generation, we have risen. I'm gonna fight them all. A 7-nation army has got my back. They're gonna rip us off, taking their time right behind our backs. And I'm talking to myself right now because I can't to myself right now because I can't forget. And the message coming from my eyes says, yeah, the system tries to hold us down. They hold us down. They forced our cultures underground. But they ain't stopping no one now. No one now. We're stronger when we know it now. We know it now. Yeah, the system tries to hold us down. They hold us down. They forced our cultures underground, but they ain't stopping no one now, we're stronger when we know it now, yeah, the system tries to hold us down, they hold us down, they force our cultures underground, but they ain't stopping no one now, we're stronger when we know it now, alright, so that was my song 7, which is a song I put out about 3 years ago, mashed up with a White Stripes song called 7-Nation Army. And that's an idea I've had for a while, just as a producer, a musician, a bass player, is to mash up that White Stripes song, 7-Nation Army, with my song 7. Another reason I wanted to do that, just another little layers of meaning to the mashup. So I come from the Sicangu Lakota Nation, which is one of 7 bands of Lakota. And there are 7 bands of Lakota. There's not just one, and there's 7 Lakota reservations. And within that, the Lakota Nation is also part of a larger confederacy in the plains known as the Ochechi. Really, there's all these layers of 7-nation army of 7 nations within the way our people structured ourselves socially and politically, even, pre-colonization. So I thought it was cool to mash that up. It's like a 7-nation army, and just all coming from being living, breathing prophecy, part of the 7-generation prophecy. So if you like that mashup, I'm also working on an acoustic album. So right now I'm kind of doing an acoustic set for you all, which is something a little different. But like I said, being an IG live set, I get to do something a little different. And so if you like what you're hearing, I'm going to be releasing a lot of these songs as you hear them, even the flute songs, within the next month probably. I've been working hard. We've been at home, so I've been working hard to put those together. Before I move on, I want to just say shout out to, again, this is all made possible by the University of Northern Colorado. Shout out to them. Their native student org, their native people on staff. A lot of people organized to make this happen, given the current state of things. All of my spring gigs canceled on me and postponed, so I needed to work too. And I performed at the University of Colorado twice already. And they reached out to me and asked me to do this concert to celebrate their native graduates, who are graduating this spring. So shout out to all the native graduates at the University of Northern Colorado. This is for you. This is a celebration of your accomplishments. I'm giving my stories and my gifts for you all. You all like family out there to me. I've been out there twice already, and so this is a way of us keeping the good energy going. And celebrating your accomplishments, celebrating all your hard work. I know it ain't easy. This next song I'm going to do, I'm going to keep it on the bass, and I'm actually going to do a song that I wrote for my mother. This is another bass cover. So many of you probably know my song, My Stone. So this song is the bass version. So I was raised by a single mother of strong Lakota women. I was born and raised on a ranch ran by Lakota women on my reservation, actually. And so when I was in college, studying at the Columbia College in Chicago, I was dead broke. I was on scholarship. I didn't have any money. People were listening to my music, but I wasn't really getting booked to perform, so I wasn't really making money off of it. I didn't really have a lot of money to my name, but my mom's birthday was coming up, and I wanted to do something special for my mom for her birthday. And I couldn't buy her anything. She doesn't really like parties. And so I decided to write her this song as a birthday present, as a thank you. And I released this song in 2011 as a birthday present for my mom. And it's become one of my most popular songs today, My Stone. So this song is dedicated to all the moms, all the grandmas. The backbones of our nations and our societies, and the gravity from which our whole universe rotates around, in my opinion. This is My Stone. 89, we say hello, he says goodbye. Daddy laughed when I was 3, he made us cry. You and I, Clyde and Bonnie, of modern day. Drama came, and friends left, but mama stayed through everything. All the fights, and all the pain, all the change. I hate my dad, don't want his name. Told my mom that I'm a one, didn't understand all the things going on between her and my fam. But I was stubborn, I know that I make it hard. He always said, son, I know you're gonna make it far. Believe that, I need that in dark times. I think of what you did for me and my heart shines. You took my hand up this mountain, made it your climb. So when I shine, mom, you shine. Yeah, a single mother with the odds stacked. You did your best, one day I'll bring it all back. Lived all my life, just me and you. Times got tough and you seen me through. Cause I ain't have a dad and we ain't have a plan. Raised by a woman, you made me a man. I know I ain't home and your boy is grown. I need in my heart, forever in my heart. You always gave me what I needed, somehow always found the time. Single parent is a parent that you stay up on your grind. I remember you would put me first. It was hard, but you said, son, it could be worse. And you were right, it's funny looking back, days are sunny. You kept me smiling even though we didn't have the money that other people did. Somehow you made it happen. I promised mom that I'm gonna do it when I'm rapping. Cause you took me everywhere in my cab and my backpack. 20 years later now I'm rapping the snapbacks. I'm rocking the long braid, we came a long way. You kept me on the right road away from the wrong way. Forever I'm grateful for the life you gave. The tears that we cried, the sacrifice you made. Yeah, a single mother with times got tough and you see me through. Cause I ain't have a dad and we ain't have a plan. Raised by a woman, you made me a man. I know I ain't home and your boy is grown. I need you to know that you're not alone. I can let it rock, but you will be my stone. Forever in my heart, forever in my heart, you're my stone. So that song was My Stone, for those of you who know it, but it was the acoustic bass cover, the acoustic bass version. And again, if you like what you're hearing, I'm going to be releasing these songs soon. on an album idea I had for a while. I've been wanting to do an acoustic album, recreating some of my songs, but also recording some of my new songs using only acoustic instruments. So my bass, the flute, and also this really awesome gourd rattle I got from an Odom singer. So that album, that project is going to be coming out hopefully within the next couple months, and it's called Aloha Uchea, which is Lakota for song cry. And I'll elaborate more on that topic later, but there's a lot of really personal and emotional songs for me on that album. Different version of those songs, something a little different, a different flavor, a different take from me. And in that, I'm gonna do another song of mine that's out. This is called "My People Come From the Land." This is a new song. It's out. It's one of my favorite songs. It's the first song I wrote on the bass, and it's the first song where actually I'm singing in Lakota on the hook. So in the hook, in the chorus, I have Lakota. And this is something I'm trying to do, is use my songwriting to learn my language. Like my mom's grandmother. And I didn't know this till I was in my 20s. My mom was talking to me about her grandma Lulu, my great grandma Lulu, and she said, your grandma Lulu could speak Lakota, but she would never speak it around us. She didn't teach it to us. And we only knew she could speak it because she would speak Lakota with the other grandmothers when they got together and would do a flea market, sometimes on the weekends on our reservation. And when I learned that, I used to never think about the whys. Why did Grandma Lulu never teach us our language? And then I got older, and I learned about the genocide my people suffered. I learned about colonization. I learned about how they made our cultures, our songs, our dances, our languages illegal under U.S. law from 1884 until 1978, until the Indian Religious Freedom Act passed in 1978. Before that, it was illegal under U.S. law for us to practice our cultures, which included our songs, our dances, our languages, all of that. The government labeled that as our religion. They called our culture our religion, and they made our religion illegal under U.S. law until 1978. So my mom grew up when it was illegal for us to practice our culture, and my great-grandmother went to boarding school, and who knows what happened to her there. Whatever happened, she stopped speaking her language out of survival, and she took our language to the grave. And so I want to use my songwriting to learn my language, and this song was one of the reasons. When your language suffers the genocide, where over 99.8% of your people are killed in that genocide, and you have very little fluent speakers left, and you come from one of the poorest places in the country, not very many people when I was growing up were even thinking about language revitalization. So yeah, we weren't forced to use their language, but we had no choice. And there's language revitalization programs. So yes, we were forced to use their language. My great-grandmother was forced to use their language. She got beat for speaking Lakota, and she was forced to use English. Every native person in this country was forced to use English at a certain point. That's why we're trying to revitalize our languages. So I seen someone say you weren't forced to use their language, and that's a flat-out lie. Actually, we were forced to use their language. So get your facts straight before you start commenting on things. So this is called "My People Come From the Land." My people come from the land. My people come from the land. My people come from the land on which you stand to fight the white man. The path of the narrow's narrow, my people living in peril with several flows. I'm armed wrestling with white devils, disheveled but never settle. These settlers ain't on my level. Give me bass, give me treble. I'm troubled but never tremble. Rekindle the 7 counts of fires, keepers of the flame, land of the burning fire. It's even in my name. I'm a symbol. Sicangu is how I rumble. I may stumble, but me, oh, yate, yakichita, I never crumble. Survivors of genocide, the trauma's got me trapped. I used to keep it inside until I decided to rap. My ancestors ain't died for me to lie in my raps. Can't take it sitting down, instead I'm fighting back. Buck your system, buck your capitalism. They took the land, made us sick and gave us alcoholism. They took away our wisdom, they took away our health. We're gonna get it back, and we're gonna honor ourselves. My people come from the land on which you stand, still fighting the white man. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, they keep my culture down. So that was my people come from the land. And in the chorus, I said, Mika oyate ki makoche etahambi, which is Lakota for my people come from the land. And I worked with a language teacher. She's like a grandma to me. Her name's Tina Martinez. Spotted Warbonnet helped me translate that title into Lakota and incorporate that into that song. And so I'm going to keep it rolling here, and I'm going to do another new song. And I'm running a little short on time, so I'm just keep going with the music, and I want to make sure you can hear these new songs. So this song is another new song, and it's about someone I love very much. And it's kind of something new for me. The sound is new. It's a new style, so I'm just going to let you guys digest it. The song is called Nevertheless. Yeah, I love you more, and nevertheless, yeah, I met you on a stage. I was wearing braids. You showed up in the end with your cousins and your friends. I could talk with you all night. I could play with you all day. Every moment feels so right. For once I'm feeling okay. Can't nobody do me like you. I love you just the way you are. Love me just the way I am. You're the only one that can save my life more than once. Believe me, you're the only thing I want. You took my heart right to song called Nevertheless. I'm going to keep it rolling. Like I said, I'm running a little short on time. I want to get all these songs in. Again, thank you all for tuning in. I'm going to actually switch it on native flute. This song is called, again, another one of those songs where I had to just do it in flute and kind of get English out of the way, get my colonizer's language out of the way. This song is called Wowa Kintuze, which is the Lakota word for forgiveness. And as you can probably guess, I wrote this song as a tool to help me forgive, the people that have hurt me. A lot of my traumas come from people I love, and so I needed to forgive them. I need to forgive them, and so I wrote this song to help me do that. But also, the more I play this song, the more I play it every day, every week, it's also to forgive myself for the times that I hurt people, because hurt people. And when you're coming from a community that suffered genocide, there's a lot of pain and a lot of hurt there, and there's a lot of lateral violence, and our people do hurt each other, and hurt people do hurt people. And so, like I said, a lot of my deepest pains come from people I love, and so I need to learn to forgive, So this is Woa Kintuze, the Lakota word for forgiveness. Thank you. So that song was called Woa Kintuze, like I said, and that song I wrote to forgive those who have hurt me. A lot of times people who I love, and to forgive myself for times that I hurt people that I love, because of my pain. And like I said, hurt people, and when you're coming from a people that survived genocide, there's a lot of pain to heal there. And so a lot of these songs, as you're saying, I wrote to help me heal. And that's something that my music always was for me. My music was a tool for survival. I never, in a million years, I thought I would be doing things. I always struggled with insecurities, and always struggled with, believing in myself and believing in my art and my voice. And you all believed in me before I believed in myself, is kind of how I feel about it. And so now I'm still using music to help me heal and help me survive, and you're kind of hearing, I'm sharing some of those songs with you, some really deep, meaningful, personal songs coming from, places of hurt, places of healing. But I'm grateful I'm able to share them with you all still in this setting. So again, thank you to the University of Northern Colorado for making this all possible. Graduates at the University of Northern Colorado. This is a celebration of your accomplishments. I know that's not an easy task. I myself was a Gates Millennium Scholar, and I studied pre-med first for 2 years. Again, I didn't believe in myself or my music, and so I thought the only way I could help people and help people heal was to be a doctor. And so I thought I was going to try to do sports medicine for a couple years before I followed my passion of music. And then that landed me in Chicago, where I attended Columbia College Chicago, and I got my Bachelor of Arts in Audio Arts and Acoustics. So I produce and record all my own music and, release it all, and I'm kind of all self-sustained. So it took me 6 years to get my Bachelor. I took a year off in between. I went back home to my res in between doing pre-med and following my passion of music. I went home to my res. There weren't a lot of things certain. There were certainly no opportunities really for my music. I was in one of the poorest counties in the whole country, in the middle of nowhere, South Dakota. And I just started performing at youth events in Indian cowboy bars. But I knew that I loved music. I knew that I was going to be playing music until the day I died, and I just put everything I had into that. And, I really believe that the universe blessed me and brought me everything I needed because I was doing what I was supposed to be doing, and I started sharing my gift with the world, my gifts, and everything since then has been such a blessing. I never in a million years, like I said, thought I'd be here, thought I would have a following. I just wrote songs to help me feel better and to help me heal, and still do. So I'm just really grateful I'm able to share that with you all. I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to switch it over to, I'm going to bring in a beat now. I'm going to bring in a microphone and all that, but I'm going to be playing native flute over a beat that I made. So this next song I'm about to do for you all is a song that I wrote on a residency, actually, at the at the Arab American National Museum in Detroit last year. So they brought me out for a residency to reflect on a trip I took in 2017. Defenders, this organization called the Dream Defenders, took a delegation of artists to Palestine just to bear witness what's happening out there, the colonization and genocide that's happening out there. And we were all artists, and we visited Palestinian artists, Palestinian organizations, Palestinian families, just to get a first-hand account of what's happening out there. And, I was sort of aware of what's happening, what was going on out there. The nation of Israel kind of colonizing that land, taking Palestinian land by force through colonization, through illegal tactics, through genocidal tactics, through colonial tactics, and displacing Palestinian people, millions of Palestinian people. And so when I got out there, I was kind of aware that colonization was happening. But I was out there for 11 days, and it was some of the most intense 11 days of my entire life. Basically what I saw was early reservation days. And I learned about what early reservations were like in the United States through reading first-hand accounts from elders on my reservation. In our home communities, we weren't allowed to leave our communities. They put it on reservations, which were essentially concentration camps, where we were marched to die, open-air prison systems, where after suffering a 99.8% genocide, over 99% of us were slaughtered in that genocide. We were then put on reservations, which were concentration camps where we were supposed to die. At least my reservation, Otherwise, reservations were kind of hard-fought land that people and tribes fought really hard to maintain, and then the government was like, all right, you can have that land, that's your reservation. But for my tribe, it was a concentration camp. And when I got out to Palestine, I basically saw early reservation systems. People were really regulated in how they weren't allowed to leave their communities, they weren't allowed to travel, their homes were being taken through force. There were all these unfair laws placed on them in their day-to-day life, which made their lives very hard. And so I saw colonization happening in real time, and it's still happening here in the United States. But I saw the same tactics that they used against my ancestors. They even had how we have tribal IDs, saying to leave your reservation. The same thing out there in Palestine. They have IDs. They're Palestinian, and they're not allowed to leave their communities. They're not allowed to leave, the areas that they're in. Their travel is regulated. Their resources are regulated. Their routes to get to school are cut off and regulated by the colonizer. And I also witnessed a lot of violence against women and children, which was super triggering for me. I witnessed a lot of military violence against Palestinian women and children. They would throw Palestinian children who were 12 years old in jail for years for throwing stones at an army. Throwing stones, and they send them to prison for years, So that's what I mean, all these unfair laws put into place. Similar to us, I just talked about an unfair law. It was illegal for us to practice our cultures under U.S. law until 1978. I bet you some people on this stream were probably alive during 1978 when it was illegal. And it's very fresh, and my mother grew up during that time. So I wrote this song inspired by my trip to Palestine. I witnessed a lot of heavy things, but one thing I did witness was a lot of hope. I saw a lot of hope. I saw a lot of strength. I saw a lot of resilience. I saw a lot of beauty in Palestinian people, man. Things that changed my life forever, including the art and the music. So when I was on that residency at the Arab American National Museum in Detroit, they wanted me to create new pieces around my trip to Palestine. So I created this song I'm about ready to perform for y'all. And again, this song is in my language. I'm rapping in Lakota. And I'm going to bring in a microphone for this one because I'm going to be rapping over a beat. But for this one, I worked with the same elder, Tina Martinez Spotted Warbonnet. She's an elder from my home community, the Rosewood Reservation in South Dakota. She helped me translate some of my lyrics into Lakota. And what I find is, as I write songs in my language, and the more I'm learning my language, it's the quickest and easiest I've ever wrote songs. And it finally feels like I'm writing songs in the language I'm supposed to be writing them in. And never have I written songs so quickly, and also Lakota is so poetic. This song is called Hope, and I'm going to be rapping in Lakota in my language and playing flute for y'all. So the music, the beat that I made was inspired by the music I heard in Palestine, and also the way I play the flute was inspired by a Palestinian style of flute playing. I forget the name of the flute, but I heard a Palestinian flute out there, and one of the ways they played it was really kind of celebratory and high energy, like. And they would play it with a dance they do called the debka, and so I was inspired by that. The way the Palestinian song is called Hope. Thank you all for tuning in. Washaga, Najimpi.